thank you for taking the time to come tonight, even on another stormy evening. And we do understand that many of y'all without power, and what a better time to talk about our power grid than tonight. So again, my name is David Parsons, the Mayor of Bartlett, Tennessee, and we're so pleased to have the President and the customer service crews from Light, Gas, and Water here tonight. It'll be a great evening, and we will have some Q&A at the end of the deal. We got a couple of slides that the President and his team would like to present to you to give you some good factual background of where we are. But again, thank you for joining us this evening. For those that could not join us this evening, we will have this recorded. Should be on the city website sometime Monday. So if you tell your friends that said they couldn't make it, was it at work, or for whatever reason could not make it, please tell them that they can go to thecityofbartlett.org and find a video and a replay of what happened tonight, so they can be informed of the same data that and information you availed yourself tonight to. So again, I want to say thank you for joining us this evening. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Memphis Light, Gas, and Water President, Mr. Doug McGowan.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's an honor to be here with you tonight. I lived in the city of Bartlett for 13 years over in Davies Plantation before I moved down into the city of Memphis, so I feel a kinship with everybody who's here in Bartlett. So let me just talk a little bit about where we are right now, because you're probably wondering with the restoration. So just a little bit of history, because it seems like ancient history, but on Tuesday evening we had a storm come through that put power out to 141,000 of our customers. That was 10 days after a storm knocked power out to 122,000 customers. By last evening on Thursday night, so Tuesday night, by Thursday night, we had restored power to 131,000 customers. So we had about 10,000 left to restore. That is yeoman's work, and credit to our crews and the folks who came in to help us to get that power back on. Last night, as you know, we had another series of storms roll through, knocked out about another 24,000 customers off in various parts of the county. By about 1 o'clock this afternoon, we had worked that number back down to just over 13,000 customers. I was still optimistic at that time that we were going to have the majority of folks restored today or tomorrow. I had originally set a goal of Sunday, no later than, but I was pretty optimistic that we would get that done. This afternoon, the storm rolled through and unfortunately knocked about another 60,000 customers off, some of whom had just been restored. The storm that came through this afternoon, if you saw the severe thunderstorm warning, came with 80-mile-an-hour winds. I can't attest that it was 80, but I do have a confirmation from the town of Collierville of confirmed 74-mile-an-hour winds. And so if you know about the hazards of winds, anything above 58 miles an hour is threatening to life and property, according to the National Weather Service. So we build most utility systems to withstand 70-mile-an-hour winds, but successive storms can build up damage, can weaken systems. Specifically, they can weaken trees, and especially when you have a saturated soil condition, many whole trees are coming down, and when they're in proximity to power lines, the power goes out. So that's where we are. About now, we have about 70,000 customers out of, and if you're wondering how many electric customers we have just about 450,000 electric customers, to give you a sense of where we are. The good news is that we have a full complement of contract crews already on hand. We didn't let anybody go, and we typically do not until we have everybody restored. So they are out now. Our teams are doing new damage assessment. I was telling someone in the lobby, I can't just begin energizing circuits until I make sure that it's safe to do so, because I may have live wires on the ground, I may have trees wrapped up, so I want to make sure it's safe. Once our teams do damage assessment here in the next few hours, we'll begin trying to switch power around. If I can give you an example of what we do, just like if there was an accident on your street and you couldn't go home via the normal route, you would take a detour to your house. That's what we do with power. If there's a break in the line, we try to reroute power to your house via another route. Sometimes I don't have multiple routes. I may have one or two, and if I can't get it to you, then you're out for a while until I fix the problem. Okay, so that's kind of where we are now. I can't say that I'm going to have everybody back on by Sunday night after having another 60,000 go out, but we're going to do our best to get as many on as quickly as we can. Before I move on, and I have a few slides I'll show you, but let me talk a little bit about your neighborhood, your city, and the power grid here. It largely grew, as did Bartlett. As you know, 1,500 people in the 60s, 70s, and rapid growth in Bartlett through the 2000s that landed us here at about 60,000 residents. Because of that, you do have modern infrastructure here in Bartlett, relatively modern infrastructure. The circuits that feed you, and I'll talk about that in a minute, come from the overhead. If you go down Highway 70, you'll see overhead lines. Your neighborhoods are mostly fed by underground. Well, that power comes from overhead to underground in your neighborhoods, okay? So let me tell a little bit about how the electricity flows. We buy it from the Tennessee Valley Authority. They send it to us with 500,000 volts. We take it in, we step that down to 161,000 volts, and then we send it to substations. There are 5 substations that serve Bartlett. The substation is what you've seen on the side of the road. It's got the big kind of metal frame with a lot of weird looking equipment in there. That substation takes 161,000 volts and decreases that to 23,000 volts. Those 5 substations have about 50 circuits. Okay, so out of each substation is about 10 circuits. Those circuits are what feed your neighborhood. So the lines that go down Highway 70 and Appling that you see on the overhead, those have 23,000 volts. There are about 50 of those that serve Bartlett. And on each one of those circuits, there's about 1,200 customers. So if a tree falls and hits one of those lines, 1,200 customers are going to lose power, okay? From those circuits, there's what we call a lateral tap. That's the line that comes down your street. And typically, there is a fuse where that meets. If a tree hits the line on your street, it will blow that fuse, and typically about 50 people will lose power. As we go down the line, that fuse serves a transformer. If you have a green box in your front yard, that's the transformer. If you have a can on a pole outside your house, that's the transformer. Typically between 4 and 8 customers on every one of those transformers. We'll energize the circuit, then we'll try to fix the fuse, then we'll try to fix the transformer, and from the transformer is what we call your service drop. So if I fixed all that stuff and your power's still out, it's probably your service drop. Does that make sense to everybody? That's how the system works. And when the power goes out, we start at the beginning. I go back to the substation and see if that's working. Then I check every circuit to see if that's working. And then I check every lateral tap on your street to make sure that's working, every transformer, and then I check your house. Everybody with me so far? Okay. So then we check the reliability. So that's how your system works. It's a relatively modern system, as systems in Shelby County go, but you do have some reliability issues in some areas. Underground service. There are 50 known cable faults, which is what we call the distribution lines underground, 50 of those in the last 4 years. Is it more reliable? Yes. Is it more expensive to try to fix it? Yes. Is it harder to find where it's broken? Yes. So it's not perfect, so we know that. If you live in the area of Broadway, Marietta Cove, there is a tap. Remember I talked about a tap? There is a tap there that we have taken action on 6 times just this year, trying to decipher what's happening. These folks back here, trying to figure out exactly what's happening on that tap. So we are zeroing in on it, but we don't have it solved yet, and we know that. And we deserve to fix that for y'all. So there are other areas in Bartlett that we know have some problems, but the good news is that at least we know what didn't work, and we're trying to figure out what will. Y'all deserve to have reliable power. I'm responsible for getting it for you, and I commit that we will get there. So it's not an unknown problem for us. Our guys, I guarantee in the trucks, are trying their level best to figure it out because they don't want to have to keep coming back. Okay, if I go to the slides real quick. Okay, I'm not going to go through the storm summary because I thought that was a pretty big deal, 122,000 people out of power until Wednesday or until Tuesday night. So we're going to go right past that. I was going to talk about the history of storms. Did I talk about this already, the 2 year, 18 months? Okay, so I'm not going to get into climate discussion with anybody, but I'm just going to tell you what the facts are. In the last 18 months, we have had 800,000 customer outages caused by major storms. Remember, I have 450,000 customers, both commercial and residential. In the last 18 months, I've had 800,000 customer outages caused by major storms. That's the same number that I had in the 10-year period between 2012 and 2022. So there are people who have asked, aren't these just normal thunderstorms that are coming through? And aren't these just normal climate experiences we're having? Our experience would tell you no, because our infrastructure certainly needs to be upgraded, but it's only 18 months older than it was in that previous 10-year period. So it's pretty severe weather that we're seeing. And just to give you a sense of reference, and not an excuse, I'm just letting you know that if it feels like it's been a lot, it's been a lot for the last 18 months. Next. You probably can't read this. What this is telling you is that 40% of outages throughout our history are caused by trees and vegetation. In 2023, 60% of the outages have been caused by trees and vegetation. Again, just because I drove down it and I was out there doing a press conference, if you live out in the Oak Road area, you know what caused your outages out there. It was all of the trees that were laying all over, and I saw a whole bunch of them still sitting in people's yards, and I unfortunately saw a lot of y'all's roofs still in need of repair because of the trees. That it means vegetation management is very important, and we'll talk about that next. Next slide. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to look at this detailed slide. I'll ask you to look at the chart on the bottom. This is our measure of reliability. Okay, this one is called KD, which is your Customer Average Outage Duration Index. If you can read it, and you look back at 1990, you would see that the number is about 60. That's hours. If you look at 2022, the number is 180. What does that mean? Well, that means every year, typically, the customer is seeing 3 times more outages than they saw in 1990. Okay? Next slide. That's not true just for customers, it's true for the entire system. If you look at the entire system, the number you'll see on there is 2 for 1990, and you'll see the number is almost 6 or 7 in 2022. That means across the system, we're seeing 3 times worse reliability. But what you'll note is that line didn't go straight up. It's been happening for a long time. What this is an indication of is a lack of investment in things like recurring maintenance and modernization of your infrastructure. And so it's very easy, I related this to someone, it's very easy to say, well, I can get another 3 or 10 or 15,000 miles out of this oil change on my car. Well, certainly you can drive 30 or 40,000 miles, but you're going to pay for that at some point, right? Your car is not going to work as well as it should. It's going to start breaking down more. That's essentially what happened here, is we have not invested over time in both vegetation management and recurring maintenance in the system. We often brag that we have the lowest 3-sector utility rates in the country. That cuts both ways. It means low prices for customers, but it also means less money to invest back in the system. Saving a few dollars on your rates every single month is certainly nice until you lose a few $100s worth of groceries in your refrigerator. And that's what I think about every day, is people who can ill afford to lose groceries when the power goes out, especially if they're struggling to make ends meet. Next. So I've said this is my quote. I didn't put it up there because it's famous, because it's my commitment to you. It's going to get better. We are going to make the system more reliable and more resilient. You deserve to have a more reliable and resilient electric system. I know I don't serve all of you with water. I serve some of you with water and serve most of you with gas, and those are very reliable. But I commit to you that we're going to make it better. You don't have to understand the details, but I just want to say there's a 3-step approach. Number 1, I'm going to go back and take a baseline assessment of our system. We had a plan that we put in place in 2020 to fix the system and to make it more reliable. But as I said, the last 18 months, all these storms, I know there's damage out there that I just don't know about. There's probably broken parts that didn't cause an outage, but are waiting to cause an outage. I need to go back and make sure I know what's broken so I know what to fix. The second thing is I'm putting in a 5-year reliability and resiliency plan. We had a funded plan. It had $1.3 billion in it that started in 2020. We began to execute that plan just as COVID hit. Supply chains dried up, workforce dried up, couldn't get contractors to do the work. But that plan is still effective. It was based on reliability that we know will work. We're picking that back up. What does that mean? The old poles out there are getting replaced. The old transformers, the old switches, more modern construction standards, that's all being put into place. We're also upgrading all of our substations. Anybody here from Davies Plantation? I was going to come and talk to you all on Tuesday night. My team was replacing one of those transformers at substation 85, which serves Davies Plantation. They were upgrading it, and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when they turned it on, it kicked the other circuit breakers off. You guys lost power just before I was supposed to come and talk to you. Well, thankfully, we got it back on at 5 o'clock. Then the storm came through at 6 and knocked everybody off, so we had to cancel. But that's what was happening with that. So the work is underway. It's happening right now. The third step, and I want to talk about this, is moving to a smart grid. A smart grid means that our system will be self-healing. When a storm like this happens, instead of what I just told you about, I'm going to do damage assessment, I'm going to see what's live and not live, the system will automatically detect the outages. It will automatically reroute power to people who can take it. Today, that takes me 6 to 8 to 12 hours to do. When I put the smart grid in, it takes under 3 minutes for all of that to happen. And it identifies precisely where the break is in the system so my crews can go there and begin fixing it. Okay? This is not a wish or a dream. This is a funded reality that we are installing right now. Okay? You'll see big switches that we're putting in our system. They're up on top of the poles. Some of them are underground, but we're installing it now. Okay, I'm not going to go to the last one. Next slide so I can answer questions. This chart here, you'll see some green, some yellow, some orange, and some red. That chart I showed you earlier about the reliability, I know what the reliability is in every single neighborhood in our service area. Bartlett is listed as green. Green does not mean good on this slide. It just means less bad than the people who are in yellow, orange, and red, okay? So if I was to look at the number up there on Bartlett, y'all are number 5, and the number there is 2.99. Just think of that as a relative scale. Think of that as a measure of hours. If you look at number 18, which is Orange Mound, most of you know where Orange Mound is. In the middle, it's bright red. Their number is 7.93. So let's just call it 8. You guys are 3. They're about 2.5 times less reliable than you are here. Okay, so everybody says our neighborhood's the most unreliable. It's not something any of us want to brag about. We all want to say we have reliable power, but we know neighborhoods, we know actually sub-neighborhoods and the reliability. We are focused our efforts to make sure that we get everybody as reliable as we possibly can. I wanted to point this out because in addition to making general reliability improvements, in the Orange Mound neighborhood, we are doing a pilot project where I have a focused number of folks doing the reliability improvements that I talked about so that I can come back to you with data and say, here's what I did and here's their reliability and how it improved. In the mid-2010s, we did this in the neighborhood called Normal Station. Anybody know where Normal Station is? It's down by the University of Memphis. We replaced the old infrastructure. We put more transformers in, less customers per transformer. We put less customers on each lateral fuse. We're putting smart switches in. We put smart switches in. We cut the vegetation. Their reliability was immediately cut. It was doubled. Their outages were cut in half. So we know that this works. And that's what we're doing in Orange Mound and in every neighborhood in our service area. So this is not a guess that this will work. We know this will work. Last thing I'll talk about is vegetation management, and I'll take some questions. You'll remember the pie chart. 40% of our power outages are because of trees, 60% in 2023. I asked the team when we got here, how are we doing with vegetation management? And they said, we're behind. I said, okay, well, how far behind? And they showed me the data. I said, wow, we're behind. So I took to my board and the Memphis City Council a 5-year contract with 3 new contractors to come in and do vegetation management. You're supposed to maintain the right-of-way every 3 years, and clear that vegetation back every 3 years. In some cases, we're 7, 8, 9 years behind. What that means is those branches are already touching the power lines, and when you say the wind blows, my power goes out, I will say you are right, because we haven't maintained the vegetation clearance from those power lines. We have got to get back on schedule, and we will. City Council's already approved this, my board has already approved this, there's one more step, and those contractors are going to go to work and get us back on a 3-year schedule. We haven't met our goal since 1997. So what I want to tell you is this is not a new problem. This is a problem that's building up over time, and that's why that reliability slide has gone up like this. We need to flatten that off and bring it back down and get your reliability back to where you deserve it to be. And I'm accountable for getting you there. Next. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of that, but I will take questions at this time because I've probably given you enough to chew on, and I know you have some specific stuff, and then I'll take a few questions, I'll turn it over to Timothy, and then you can ask us both questions at the end. So any immediate questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
You can point them to the mic down here.
There's a microphone over here if you need it.
We ask that they go to it.
Okay, please go to the microphone so they can get it on camera.
Everybody can hear the audio.
About the trees and stuff like that, but for the past 3 or 4 months, every time the rain falls, my lights go out. That means I have to sleep in a hot house. All my food is being and then I have to go spend money at a restaurant that I don't have and I don't need to be doing. Then some of us have health problems because I know I had to go take a lady to the hospital because she's on oxygen and she had problems with anxiety. So we had to rush her to the hospital. She had to stay in the hospital just to get her oxygen. These things we need to consider because a lot of people don't have generators. They can't afford to get generators. So I know what the problem is. The trees are hanging on that supporter that you just said. They came to me and said, can we go in there and fix the transformer? Maybe you should, when the rain is not falling, go cut the trees down because you know this was the problem. Stop saying we have to invest money and get busy fixing. You know the problem is right there in this transformer. This light keeps going off over and over and over. Fix it. Then you could go and fix the other things. This one is the problem. You know the problem is here. Fix this problem. Then you have to say the same problem that is over and over and over. Fix the problem that you know, then you can move on to the next problem.
You're right. That's exactly what I mentioned when I said tree trimming and we haven't met our goal. We're supposed to do, just to give you a sense, last year we were supposed to do 1,400 miles of tree trimming. Last year we did 190. So yes, that's why I said our current contractor's not doing what they're supposed to do. So I got 3 new contractors who will start to do exactly what you said, because you're right.
Yes, so are you connected to the Bartlett there? Because he could send somebody and put some extra money in there to cut down the trees so it can help the customer. Because my lights was about to go just now.
Yep.
And I had to pray to the Lord, please, Lord, don't let my lights go off again. I'm going to be hot. My house just cooled off.
Yes, ma'am. We got to cut the trees.
I'm flickering. I don't know if I'm going to have lights tonight. That is how bad it is. And this is becoming a problem. It's a problem for me, and I know it's a problem for other people.
Amen. You are correct.
Problem, and it needs to be corrected now. Now, find some way. Cut them limbs down or something. Do something. I need help.
I got you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here.
Sure.
My name is John Wolf. I'm a retired lineman from my gas and water, so I'm kind of familiar with what's going on. I appreciate the job y'all are doing. I counted, I was actually there for the top 19. That's something to be proud of, I guess.
Sure.
But anyway, I'm just going to touch on the tree trimming. I wasn't going to say anything about that, but I do think it's important that it's done properly. I think it's not always done properly. We have a right of way. It should be
Sure.
through the ground, through the sky. And you see a lot of tall trees they can't reach, they lean out. Somebody needs to get up there and cut that, because that's what's going to fall. And you see a lot of trees growing up under the power lines that are cut off to the telephone. Those need to go to the ground.
Sure.
Anyways, that's not what I came here for. I came here for my mother. She's elderly and she can't be here, and there's 3 other ladies over there. Their neighborhood's experiencing the reliability issue you were talking about. They're in an older part of Bartlett over around Yale and Old Brownville. Specifically, her street name's Robin's Roost, if you wanted to look into it.
Sure.
Their power, basically what everybody else has been going through here for the last several weeks with these outages, they've been going through for some years now because their underground cables on. Now, like I said, I'm a lineman, I'm very familiar with what's going on over there, and the cable they have is an older type cable. It's inferior to what we use now. But it was put in pipe. So before them, it was actually just direct buried, and that fault was a lot, because any little rock or anything cuts that insulation. Anyways, theirs actually was put in pipe, but it's still deteriorated after 40 years. Okay, so they need a complete, we call it a retrofit, you call it a reconductor, whatever. But their underground cable is disintegrating, basically, what's happening. In the pipe, it's actually in pipe. But here's part of the problem as well. When they started putting the cable in pipe, they realized direct burying it was a bad thing, although it was sold as being direct burial, and it is. They started putting it in pipe. They said, we're not going to have this problem anymore. When the cables start going bad, we're simply going to pull that span out and pull a new one in. I said, I know, I was here when all this was going on. I was at Lycans, Florida. So that's what's supposed to happen. They're supposed to come, they identify a bad span of cable, and they call in a crew with reel a cable, and you pull it out, pull it in, make your terminations, and you're done. That span of cable is good for the next 40 years, whatever, 50, whatever. That's not what they're doing. At least not over there in their neighborhood. They're actually identifying a bad span of cable. They're calling them what we call lateral test. And they come and put like 50,000 volts, they pump that cable hard, and they go around and identify where the cable's bad. They're digging down. They're locating the fault. They dig down, bust into that duct, and splice it. All they had to do, it takes probably at least twice as long to do that as just replacing the span of cable. It's an inferior fix. So now basically you've taken your duct, you've broken it, you can't pull that cable next time. So now you basically turn your cable that's in duct into a direct buried cable. I'm sorry, I know it's taking a while, but I wish you would look into this.
Sure.
They need to stop breaking into this duct, and when they identify a bad cable that's in duct, they just need to pull in a new span. But more importantly, the places with the aging cable, like this, she lives on Robin's Roost. I wish you would look into it because it's been going on for a couple of years now.
Sure.
The reliability issue. They just basically need a reconductor. All their cable needs to be pulled out and pulled in. I'm sure they're not the only ones, but there's a lot of elderly people that live in that neighborhood because it's an older part of Bartlett, and many of those people still live there that bought those houses new 40 plus years ago.
Yes, sir. It's a great point. We got Robin's Roost down. We'll definitely take a look at it, and I'll talk to our underground crews to make sure that where we can reconductor, and that is part of our funded plan, is for aging underground infrastructure to have that reconductored or to have it pulled out and replaced. So that is part of the plan.
Right, but like I said, now the problem they've got there when they come
Understood.
to do it, they've broken ducts, so now
Right.
they're going to have to replace the duct.
I understand exactly what you're
It's a
saying.
huge issue because they didn't do what they should have done on the repair.
I got you.
But anyways, thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Hey, sir.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Richard Tapp. I'm a retired firefighter at the city hall. I live a stone's throw from here. The house I'm living in, my parents and I have owned that for over 40 years. Until this year, we've never had any kind of houses like this. I called MLGW after the first little short bout we had earlier, just two or 3 days. I survived that. But I don't hold you no knives. I told your people that I live with electric on this machine. If it's out and I know it, I'm in bad shape, real bad shape. Ambulance man, I've been to the hospital and kind of lost this week. But I asked them about that, they said, only if you're on life support. I said, well, 4 days a week, 4 hours a week, I'm on life support. And, at least put it on the list, check on him, so you can't make sure he's got power
Sure.
or has some other reserve. He's going to the hospital, you spend 8 hours or more waiting. Then they're on the dialysis for like 2 more hours. Well, frequent. Well, I shot 24 hours at the hospital. Nobody in the bedroom, sitting on chairs is going to come. But, boy, we're prioritizing all the general was talking about. They're doing blowing up patch, but it'd be cheaper in the long run, easier just to replace that thing. And that's, we didn't patch holes with duct tape and hose, we replaced the whole piece of hose. Don't patch stuff, let's do it right. Tree trimming, I seen it come out next one, last night. The tree, the big tree, last week, and the tree that cut to a U-shape, it's still up, one side of it's still flying. And yet, I don't know what a beautiful tree. Don't knock out my power. Simple as that. You build the right way. You got it. Wherever they plant there, it's yours. They're probably getting it up. You make the decision on those or not. And they say, you cut it down. Yes, sir. We cut it down, do it. We need to get our own tree trimming crew. Hiring people to come in to do a short span. And I had it done before, and if it gets robbed and the paper stolen, they just left. You need people that have MLGW on their shirt and in their truck. And get out there, they got plenty of trim year round. So let's get with it, get this trim operation going, the trees, quick patching, let's repair a place, repair the place. And it's, I'm just saying, I don't have long, go for me, put the generator in the house, run the machine. And they really, less than 2 years, that's a lot of investment, 35, 40, 5,000 to do that. We need, y'all, find these people that have consistent needs, power, interesting. I don't know if you're on our support system yet, but you got people that are secondary tiers of that need power as well. I mean, this is the worst I've had. I can't take the heat and the 100 degrees of temperature, what, 48 ounces of water a day. I can't have it 24. Taking medicine, eating everything. So I can't stay hydrated. When the air conditioner's off the house, I'm up and down over the hotel room. That's a good novel solution for you, system like time done. I really think y'all need to, instead of paying for another study, you already know what the problem is.
Gotcha, sir. And just to be clear, we're not paying for any study. We're actually doing the work. So.
And how we screw over the river and I do it again, I understand. Y'all are throwing away more money because you know what the problem is. Everybody knows what the problem is. So let's get after the hands. Let's get it fixed.
We're on it. We're doing it. We're getting it fixed. Thank you. And I'm sorry you're going through that. And we understand. And I will work with our Shelby County EMA. I know we have with Memphis Fire. I think with Bartlett Fire, some people who are on the critical list to check on, who may not be life support, but they do check on. So I'm going to make sure that we follow up with you on that. So thank you for your comments. Yes, sir.
I thank you for staying here and listening to my advice.
No, that's all
You
right.
guys do a great job. Every time I was on the real line, the electricity turned off from the building, bam, they were there. We were standing out front window, and they didn't waste any time getting there.
Very
I
good.
appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service to the city of Bartlett.
Y'all are very concerned about emergency services. I know you're one. Thank you for your people, and you for listening.
Yes, sir.
Hi there.
Hi.
How are you doing? My name is Jasmine Payne. I live right over here on 4th Avenue, so just right across the street.
Sure.
Some of the concerns that I have is not all of us who live in this area make a lot of money. I'm on disability, and I barely get up. Sometimes I have to get charitable services to help me with my MLGW bill on occasion. And just like last night, I literally just gave y'all my last $120, which was a tear in the bucket to what the bill actually is, to keep from getting disconnected this morning. Every time someone sneezes, my lights are out. Every single time, without fail. Actually, that's more reliable than your service. Now, I have food that's being ruined. I have 6 dogs. I have my husband who has health issues, and I have my little sister that I take care of who has health issues. My question to you is I'm hearing a lot of, we're lacking in the vegetation issue and yada, 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 to be quite frank. It seems like it's a little too late for some of us. Some of us don't have the luxury tonight. I'm gonna have to go to a hotel room. That's literally everything that's in my purse. I'm gonna have to use that. It's upsetting because no one helps me. I have no one. I have no family, they're all gone. So it's on me to take care of everybody. And when I can't rely on my electricity to keep the little bit of food that I've been able to accumulate for all the people that I have to take care of, which I didn't get replacement for the last time. Now this food's gonna ruin. So what am I to do? Who's gonna replace it? Where am I gonna get the money for it? I don't think that, no offense, but I don't think that, obviously these aren't issues that y'all face on a personal level. So sometimes I hope you care, but you need to see it. There are elderly people who live on my street, like this gentleman, who have severe health issues, who are on dialysis. My next door neighbor's on dialysis. They literally need that to live. So this isn't playtime. This is serious crap, Like, the trees, I've lived on that street for 12 years now. The last time I saw someone come and do any work on those trees was 2014. So that was almost 10 years ago. That's ridiculous. There's no excuse. I know if I don't pay my property taxes, y'all kick me out of my house and put me on the street. 15% compounding interest. So more and more and more is debt if I don't pay it. So, and another thing, I know I'm getting a little out there, but another thing that you mentioned is what cheap bill, what affordable electricity is. Am I missing something? Is anybody in here, is this affordable to you all? $365 a month, $400 a month, all LED lights. I keep them turned off. Keep my thermostat on 70. I don't think that's affordable. That's what some people in Midtown pay for a one-room apartment a month. That's not affordable. So passing the buck to the customer to pay for all this, I don't think that's acceptable. I just don't. That's just my opinion, but the question I have for you is, in the short term, what are the plans to, I guess, make things a slight more less frequent as far as the outages go? Because we know the weather is, we live in a severe weather area. So, I mean, is there any short term? We've heard what the long term goal is, but do you have any short term answers or solutions?
Okay, thank you for that. There was a lot there to digest, and I'm sorry you're going through that, so I'll address a couple of things and turn over to Timothy because I think he has some things that will maybe help.
Okay.
Yes, so when I talk about trees, it's not, like you said, this is not playtime. The number one thing that will improve reliability is cutting the trees. You said yourself they haven't been there since 2014. You're right, they haven't, so we got to cut those first. That'll be the first big improvement in reliability. Second, I do understand very many of our customers are choosing whether to put some money on the light bill, some money on rent, or some money on food, and that's the thing that keeps us up at night is that, I understand some people have lost food multiple times. A couple of things just to remember, I want to say this. If you do not have any other wells to turn, whether you're receiving public assistance, whether you're not, if you call the number 211, that's the Library Information and Community Services line, and they have 450 agencies that can help you with almost any need that you have. So replacement food, those kinds of things. If you're on SNAP benefits, we can get those restored for you and replace the food that you had. Today, this afternoon, I think down in Broad Avenue, we were with the Mid-South Food Bank replacing people's food through a food bank for free. So we're very sympathetic to that. We understand what a burden it is. The last thing I'll say is I understand when I say affordability, all I can do is compare you to the other 50 largest metro areas in the country, and our bill is the lowest of all the 50 metros in the country. And that's a fair comparison of 1,000 kilowatt hours to 1,000. One thing I'll say for you is I know you keep your thermostat on 70. We recommend 78 in the summer, which may sound too hot to you, and we recommend 68 in the winter. So
78 is not very good.
I understand for some folks. So the other thing, right, let Timothy talk. He'll talk to you about that. One thing we can do, and let me let Timothy talk, something that he can help. What's it called? The energy survey, So an energy survey. So we will come to your house and say, here's where we think, here's how we can save you some money, and he'll tell you about this. If you got a refrigerator in the garage and it's 110 degrees outside, that is probably you're dumping a bunch of money down the tube. So let Timothy talk real quick because he has a few pieces of information to share, and then I'll be available for more questions.
I have one more quick small question. You were talking about how the transformer issue and how you'll have ordinarily 15 customers on.
We like to have 4, right?
Which that sounds good to me, but I've noticed, like the gentleman said, like I said, I live on right here on 4th and Appling. That little corner right now, everyone else is on except for that little corner. And I've noticed when the ice storm happened, not this last one, but the one the year prior, the big one, it's really disheartening when I know the guys out on the field are really busy, but it's really disheartening when you know that it's just with the flip of the switch, your lights will come back on and your neighbor's lights will come back on. And I have a feeling that's what's going on right this second. And so it's just, they haven't gotten out there to flip it.
Yeah, it's probably a fuse. They actually have to take the fuse out, replace it, and put it back. But they got to make sure that there's not a short there too. So
I know they're overwhelmed, but
Sure.
I just wanted to.
Well, I appreciate that.
But thank you for listening.
Thank you. Absolutely, man. Timothy.
Sir, excuse me, I was just going to sort of conclude, because this gentleman probably can speak to some of my concerns as well.
Sure.
I don't think anyone else wants to speak at the moment here. I just love to sum up what everyone said, and I know you feel the way we feel, that we're all doing the best we can, but still we're struggling out here. In my neighborhood particularly, I've been in Bartlett 45 years. It is the old neighborhood. The gentleman you're talking about, Robbins Reese, was right on. There's 81 of our homes. Anytime something happens, we're the first to go out and the last to come back on. And it makes sense. We're a small little part of what you're doing. You need to work on the big customers, not the little 81 houses in our neighborhood.
Every customer is important, believe me.
Well, and I agree with you, but I understand, we're probably not a priority. So I just wanted to kind of sum up everything everyone has said, but I do have an issue with your outage line and your outage map. This is the third time in 3 weeks we've been without power.
Mm-hmm.
We call, you need to update those lines in that map. It doesn't tell you hardly anything usually. It's just, well, we're working on it. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. Like the time we were out for a week, I have a husband with health issues too. And if I had known it's going to be 3 or 4 days, I may have made different plans. But we're thinking every minute it's going to come on. Every minute it's going to come on. So if you could possibly update that to give us a better idea of what's going on, where we are in the system, when it's going to be fixed. And as everyone said, your crews are great. When they do come out, they get the job done, but they put Band-Aids on it. It's just as this gentleman said in our neighborhood, that's what they do. But we get our power on and we're happy until the next time. But we really appreciate you and appreciate your being here and the company. We talked to our friends who live in suburban areas and outside of Shelby County, and they don't have these issues. And you talk about our being a metropolitan area, so why are we having all these issues? People in Selma, their power goes out, it's back on the next day. But it takes us days and weeks to get it on. So I wanted to address that with you. I have a neighbor over here, Debbie. You have anything to add? And it is so disheartening, as she said. Our little group, everybody around us has power. And we sit here and they don't. And we have to drive around to charge our phones, go get ice, and it's just disheartening. And there's no reason for Memphis to have this problem. Should we be looking at co-ops in the suburban areas? It's almost like, no one really cares about the outliners. Everybody's in downtown Memphis with the commercial accounts and the hospitals, and definitely they need power. But we just sit out here and just wait till it's our turn. So, but again, I did want to bring up before this gentleman comes up about the outage line and the map. If we could get a lot more current information, it would be most helpful.
So before he comes up, I'll address that. We will update that outage map. We're going to make it look more modern and give you a little bit more information. If you click on those squares, it will tell you what's happening. I'm waiting for the men in the field to tell me what they think the estimate's going to be before I plug it in there. And so that as soon as I get the information, we'll put it in there. And the outage line as well. Timothy is in charge of the customer care center and the outage line, and they've done yeoman's work to get more, be more responsive there. So, but that is job number one for us, is to make sure we get you more information. So let me let Timothy talk to you a little bit about that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor Parsons, for inviting me.
Good evening. In the 5 minutes that I have to speak here, I'll make an abridged version of my presentation, and then you have my word. I will stay here as long as need be to answer all of your questions individually. So I want to be respectful of your time. So I'm going to take what should have been probably a half an hour presentation, and we'll talk about it in about 5 minutes. And then I'll hit some of the salient points. Let me start off with, my name is Timothy Davis. I am the Vice President and Chief Customer Officer for all things customer. There is nowhere to hide. I am the person accountable for your customer experience. Now, I'm new to your fair city, but in meeting a number of you, there's a lot of biblical names in the room. I met a lot of Johns, Davids, some Michaels, and now you have a Timothy. I'm looking for a place to move to and live, and Bartlett certainly is on my list of places to move to, because I feel like I'm in good hands. I've had a chance to speak with many of you today, and I felt the warmth until you knew that I worked for MLGW, and now I'm feeling the heat. But that's okay. That's part of what I do. So while I may be new to your fair city, I'm not new to this industry. This is my 42nd year in the utility industry, and I have a bit of a knack. Some people call me a fixer. Some people call me someone who helps companies become better versions of themselves. And I'm here to help President McGowan make some improvements. So I'm going to talk a little bit for you about what we've been doing, just a small bit, and then get to some of those programs that we talked about. One of my jobs used to be helping some of our largest customers save money, but I started off going to people's homes in our program that we call an energy doctor, where we go to your home and help you understand where your energy is being used. I too agree, 78 is too hot, right? But if you keep it at 70 degrees on a regular basis, your bill's gonna be high. But if you buy a fan, which I have, a ceiling fan and a few other ones, and I use those, and it cuts my usage by 90% by doing that. That's a free service. Well, it's not really free, right? It's in your electric bill. But that's a free service that we have. I'll talk a little bit about that. So, new to your city, but I've been in, what is that now? 6 different cities in 4 different states. Twice in Texas, because it's pretty big. Okay? So let's go on to the next slide. Talk about what we're going to talk about. Again, in a bridge version, we're going to talk about call center improvements. That was one of the things that I was asked to do immediately. Now, I got to say, in the interview, they didn't tell me everything that I'd be facing when I got here. But we're working on that, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about the call center improvements, and then we'll skip the part about the delayed billing, because that was really long. And then we'll get into the part what I call earning your business. And I'm going to tell you some simple truths and be transparent about my observations. So one of the things that I'm focusing on is what President McGowan calls earning your business. What I call winning the customer. I know we're a monopoly, but we need to not act like it. We need to act like we have to earn your business every day. And what I call winning the customer. I want to feel like I've run a marathon to earn your trust and earn your respect. We've got a ways to go with that, but I'm going to talk to you about what we're doing about it. I didn't come here because it was easy, because it's not. But I've got a number of people who are committed to helping me in the customer service department. So let's talk about the call center first, because that's what I was asked to do immediately, not to mention reopening the community offices after they were closed for 2.5 years for COVID. So when I got here, roughly 9 months ago, our average speed of answer, so have any of you tried to call our call center? Now, not the 544-6500 number, because that's for reporting outages and you're likely to get a recorded comment for that. I'm talking about the 544-6549 number. That's an actual live person. When I got here, it was 47.8 minutes. And I'm pleased to report to you that through the hard work of our employees, as of June, it was 72 seconds. We do want to earn your trust, we do want to earn your business, and we do want to talk to you, believe it or not. The people on that line actually really are passionate about helping folks. And they know they were having some trouble. We've made some changes, we've made some improvements, we've brought in some new managements, and we're using the word accountability a lot. Teamwork, accountability, continuous improvement, consistent, repeatable, sustainable performance. So we don't want to just do this once, we want to make it, this is how we do business moving forward. So we have improved, we've decreased our response time by 97%, right? And we continue to reduce our goals. My goal is to have that phone answered within 90 seconds. We'll have to change the slide, it won't be minutes anymore, it'll be seconds. In addition to that, next slide please. How many of you have called and been so frustrated that you just hung up? Okay. I actually sit and listen to calls. Try to do it at least once a week so I can hear what you have to say. Some of you, I saw some military people here, there's a lot of colorful language when customers call. and they're very frustrated. And I will tell you, I'm here to absorb your frustration, but the people on that phone, they're there to try to help you. So anything that you have to say, you feel that strongly about, I'll be happy to talk to you myself, because that's the best part of my job, believe it or not, because I'm someone who can do something about your frustrations. So I'm pleased to say that the call center receives roughly 95,000 to 110,000 calls monthly. And that abandoned call rate, those people that hang up, that's been reduced by roughly 95%. So when you call now, it's a high probability someone will answer. Our folks are really proud of that, so much so that they're out there in the lobby here trying to help you answer your questions. Some of those folks have been working until 9 or 10 o'clock during the storms, and we've done a bunch of these, but they keep volunteering. After they've served their shift during the day, they're coming out with me to answer your phones. Not because they have to. They volunteered. They asked to do this. I'm really proud of that, and I hope you are too. Those are the people that are serving you. Now, I want to move on past the other stuff and get right to the programs. Move to slide 13, which is, if you'd advance it pretty quickly, please. Just a quick reminder, people are taking an advantage to create these scams and call you, and they're especially preying on the elderly, saying that if you don't give them some Bitcoin or some Starbucks cards or some $25 gift certificates, that they're going to disconnect your electricity. MLGW does not do that. If you hear anything like that, hang up the phone, delete the email if it was sent to you. Never give out your personal or financial information, and call MLGW at 544-6549. Let me be clear, this is your utility. We do not want to disconnect your power. In the next few slides, I'm going to give you some ideas of the number of programs that we have. Go to slide, past the next slide and go to slide 17. Yeah. Okay. So if you're wondering where your money's going, we want to make you make informed energy decisions. So if you want to have your thermostat at 70 or 68, or as I like to call some of the things, when my wife was going through a personal summer, she had that, look, some of you ladies are laughing. You understand what I'm talking about. Our bill went up during that time. And I explained to her, hey, look, I do this for a living. Our bill's about to increase. And she said, and? Right? My temper's about to increase if it's not cooler. So what we want to do is that you make some informed energy decisions. As much as I tried to get a ceiling fan and give her, he wasn't having that. So we do in-home energy audits. I know, I used to be a guy who did one of those. I've done it for our residential customers all the way up to our largest military bases. So I know a little bit about helping you save money and energy, and so do our folks. You can find those services on our website. There's also Energy Smart workshops. We'll come out, and again, all these services are free. We'll come out to your community group, your church, and share these things with all of you. We've also recently developed a new program called our Safety and Preparedness Program. So when I got here and I saw that there was all these outages, since I've been here, I think this is my 8th one in the 10 months that I've been here. So we came up with this program, and you all should have got a little giveaway today, did you? Okay, so I'm from one of the states I've been in is California, and in California we have something called earthquakes, right? So we all have this, well, mine's much bigger than this nice one that you have, but it's a radio that we keep that allows us to tune in to news information and what's going on in the event that there's no power. Every one of you today should have been given one of these up-to-date ones. Right, here's what's cool about it. Number one, while you can plug it in and charge it, you can actually power it through solar power. You can also crank it like they did back in the old days, right? Many of these had those crystal sets and other things, so you can crank it and power it. So in the event of an outage, you gotta get in touch with the radio. It also has a light on it. It also has a plug where you can charge your battery. It also will do your taxes for it. No. But the idea here is to give you something that in the event, and I keep one of these in my car. I can't help myself. I've been doing it ever since I've been in California. Yours is a lot smaller. You can keep in your pocket in the event. If not, at least in the dark, you got a light if you had to get out quickly, okay? Next slide. A little bit about the assistance programs. In all the companies that I have ever been to, I have never seen a company that has more programs than MLGW. No one here wants to disconnect your electric service, your water, your gas. And one thing I've learned about being here, there's maybe 1 degree of separation. We live in your communities. Our power is out too. I chose a home here in Cordova periodically when I first moved here because it was close to the call center. My power was out for 3 or 4 days as well. So we are all part of the same community. The guy that's coming to disconnect your service may live in your neighborhood. No one wants to have that conversation. Let me be clear. If you're having issues, we want to work with you. But I will tell you this, you have to call us. If you call us, believe me, there will be someone who will offer you, I think we have like 15, 20 programs. And they're really good programs to help, in some cases, pay the whole bill. Okay, so just give us a call. And I think, is that it? Oh, the next one just gives an understanding of what we're doing out in the community. It's really hard. I don't know if you know this, but the Department of Labor had a study that there's folks that are just not working anymore, right? And there's a study that says 7 million men ages 18 to 52 have removed themselves from the workplace. We're having a hard time finding people to do the work, even though we've got the money to do the work. So what we're doing now under President McGowan's leadership is we got a program to go out in the community and train people to be utility workers and line workers, right? Which I'm really proud about. It's something that can change your life. I began my career as a meter reader. It's amazing that what you can do within a utility company. So our folks have partnered with one of the high schools as well as one of the community colleges to create. So if you know some folks who are looking for work or want to get in the utility business, we have some programs to train them. And I know this generation nowadays thinks that after 6 months they can be the president of a company. I didn't do it in 6 months, but I did go from a meter reader to a chief customer officer, so it is possible. So with that, I'm going to end my comments. I want to thank you for your warmth and your kindness. Again, I may pick Bartlett to live in. I met your I think his name was Matthew, another biblical name, your director of public works, who told me some of the wonderful things about your city. So I want to get my wife out here because let's face it, I won't be making that choice anywhere where I live. She will be. But I'm hoping we pick Bartlett. It's a beautiful place so far with a lot of warm people. Thank you for your time. I'll be here as long as you need me to be to answer your questions. Again, my name is Timothy Davis. Thank you.
Timothy, we have a home for you. We just got to find it.
Okay.
So I'd like to kind of conclude with just a couple of comments that for the city of Bartlett, we did extend the state of emergency for another 7 days. You can only extend those 7 days at a time. It's my intention to continue to extend that state of an emergency till we get to some sort of semblance of getting the debris picked up. That opens the door for a lot of available money and grants, and we want to make sure that we avail of ourselves of that. Today, as of quitting time today, we have picked up 111,000 cubic yards of debris, which is the largest ever before. To put that in some semblance of range, you understand the ice storm of 2021, 68,000 cubic yards. Hurricane Elvis, everybody remembers that. It was around 38,000 cubic yards. So if you just take a storm like Hurricane Elvis, we've exceeded it by 3 or 4 times. We've got 13 contractors that's in helping us pick that up. To put that into relationship, we've made about 1,450 trips to the dump. And if you equate those large trucks that are contract trucks along with our service trucks picking up your debris, we've just completed, I think we're close, if we didn't complete today or tomorrow, 1 round around our city. So we've got hopefully your front yard, and now you're bringing your rear yard to us, and we'll make those rounds again there. But to put that in resemblance, some sort of factor, it's equivalent to having 75 of our city trucks running around town picking up your debris. It comes with a price, and the price tag is escalating. But I just want to say that we should be getting, we'll let you know when we get a little closer. So if you would, get your debris to the curb quickly as you can so that we can get around and pick that up. And in many cases, I go down one street, it's clean that afternoon, and particularly on Monday morning, I drive by and it looks like we never picked anything up. So if you drive by those streets, they may have been already cleaned up and then piled up again. So with that being said, I'd like to say a couple other things. There was a gentleman, I think it was Richard Tapp, old Bartlett high school boy that has health issues. If your power does go out, contact one of our fire departments, and we've got generators, especially for that, the folks that need those services to run those. So just call your local fire station, and they'll be glad to bring a generator as long as we have those. In fact, at this time, I'd like to call Alderman Brad Keene to come down front. While he's coming down front, along with all these other services here, I'd like Alderman Brad Keene to be down here, who sits on our Family Assistance Commission. So we have a lot of our generous, Bartlett is a generous place, and a lot of those residents have an opportunity when they pay their water bill to contribute funds, and it goes into the Family Assistance Fund. So if you're in a unique situation or whatever, please contact Brad. Please stand up one more time, Brad, and see Brad down here. He can tell you all about the Family Assistance Commission and see if there's if we can align some funds up there for you. I'd like to also add that many tonight, what I heard a lot of is issues that went back to the 90s, the early 2000s, the teens. A lot of the issues that all of us as Bartlett residents are very well of in repeating. It's been going on and on and on and on. When is something going to be done? We want something done now. And I just want to say, as your mayor, I am more optimistic about their ability to keep their word and what they're able to do since this man has been on the job. Many of you may not know, but he's only been here 6 or 8 months. And I'll ask you, if you can go back, if you're still up there, you just go back to the one side on the call center. You'll see a direct correlation to the call center's wait time to where it was to where it is. And I'm just asking that we be patient. We have warm hearts. And I know that's hard to do when your power's out. You have no food in your refrigerator. And the problem keeps consistently happening over and over again. But I'm just going to ask you to be patient. We're just, number one, I can't turn your power on, but I can be a conduit to try to help make sure that we get the right resources out here and work with this department. Ever since the storm hit on June the 25th at 7 or 6:30 that night, it's been unbelievable the access that the president of Light, Gas, and Water has been. When I asked him to come out here earlier this week, he said, "David, you named the date and the time." We've got a man now that I think is a man of action. He's a man of his word. And we're very fortunate that we've got new leadership at Light, Gas, and Water. And I've got faith that in time, just as you've seen the call center calls go down, that many of the issues that you're talking about tonight, you give this man time and this administration time and the customer service time, and I think you will begin to see the improvements that we've all been long awaiting for and been expecting. So I'm happy to say, am I happy about what's happened and our power going out? No. But I'm trying to remain optimistic that I'm seeing action. And for the first time in a long time, I can't remember the last time the president has been in our community, in our streets, with debris, telling folks where we're at, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. So just keep communicating to the customer care service, keep communicating to Light, Gas, and Water. Avail yourselves of those resources, that those that need those resources. And anytime you can call 385-6444, and it's the City Hall, and we will do everything we can to try to make sure that you're informed, you know what's going on, and that your quality of life, if there's anything we can do to help improve your quality of life, for something as simple as keep your water running and clean and your power on, you let us know. And again, as mayor of the city of Bartlett, I want to say thank you to Light, Gas, and Water. This new leadership and administrations in. And I want to thank you for taking the time. And I also want to remind you that for your ones that did not see this and found that this evening was informational and help answer some of your questions, please point them to the city website, and they'll be able to view what you saw tonight. So again, thank you, and I hope you have a good evening in your power zone when you get home. Thank you.